Slope Studios is a virtual production and metaverse company. From next-level location-based attractions to groundbreaking virtual production to persistent metaverse communities, Dark Slope Studios challenges the ideals of what makes great entertainment every single day. Dark Slope's headquarters are an 8,000 square foot studio space located in Toronto, Canada. The studio is a cutting-edge production and R&D lab where game mechanics, thrilling immersive attractions, and linear broadcast content are tested, produced, and built. Our state-of-the-art virtual production stage is a flexible motion tracking facility where we produce near real-time animation. Supported by XSense and OptiTrack, our team are experts in full-body capture, including detailed hand tracking, full facial capture capability, and stunning real-time rendering. The studio space also doubles as a free-roam virtual reality space for the development of location-based entertainment spectacles for family entertainment centers and theme parks. Dark Slope Studios' client base is international, and we have partnered with Nickelodeon, NBC Universal, WildBrain, Entertainment One's Secret Location, Zero Latency, Hologate, AT&T, TV Ontario, amongst many others. To streamline efficient production, Dark Slope Studios has developed a suite of proprietary production tools that form what we refer to as our Flex pipeline. Flex RDS is a remote directing service that enables creators to direct performers and watch real-time retargeting of data to animated characters from anywhere in the world. Our Flex Kitchen Sync tool is a smart efficiency for data workflow, introducing automation features to replace tedious human labor that is prone to errors. Ultimately, the goal of the Flex pipeline is to offer a more efficient, more flexible virtual production process, saving time and money. Dark Slope Studios is currently developing original intellectual properties, expansive metaverses, and next-generation hybrid factual entertainment formats. Please contact us through our website at www.darkslope.com if you're interested in virtual production or cutting-edge interactive experiences.
Hey, welcome back everyone. Before we start, we want to remind you that if you wish to continue the conversation even after the conference, you can follow us on Twitter at the TAAFI or join us on Discord. You can find out more on our website at taafi.com. Also, we have something special for everyone today. During the extended break, we have some awesome activities for you to explore. Our friends at Jamfield are hosting an AMA to talk about their studio, some of the projects they're working on, and answer any questions from the audience on what it's like to work at Jamfield. Also, our friends over at Novana are hosting a trivia event. Test your animation knowledge and win prizes. Our friends at Nine Story and Brownback Films are also hosting a Q&A session. Drop by and find out about the shows they're working on, how they're growing over the next year, and see if there's a job opportunity there for you. And last but not least, join Guru Studio animation director Andrew Stromaitis for a special demonstration of his original animation workflow with many animators, which many animators have found immensely helpful for developing a solid performance base. It all happens at 12:45 p.m., immediately following the Centaur World session, so make sure to check them out. And you can find out more information about it on our website, taafi.com. So, this next panel discussion, Emerging Tech in Animation, is brought to you today by Dark Slope Studios. Dark Slope is a Toronto-based virtual production studio focused on creating new forms of entertainment. TV series, theme park spectacles, video games, and motion capture, they are all about creating content using the latest in technology. Thank you, Dark Slope, for supporting this year's TAAFI Industry Conference. Now, let's get started with our next session. Moderating this discussion about the cutting edge of the animation industry, we have Grayden Laing. Grayden is an artist, animator, and filmmaker based in St. Thomas, Ontario. He is passionate about creating artwork that leads viewers to a more nuanced perception of the world around them. In the broadcast world, Grayden has done work for the W Network, CHCH, Vision TV, Investigation Discovery, and the History Channel. He is also one of the amazing behind-the-scenes producers for this year's TAAFI Industry Conference. Everyone, please welcome Grayden.
Hello and welcome, everybody. We have a fantastic panel all prepped for you. And first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a little bit more of an in-depth view over our panelists. So first off, you've already heard a little bit about Dan, who is the president and co-founder of Dark Slope Studios. He also happens to be sponsoring this particular panel, so thank you for that. Dark Slope Studios is a metaverse and virtual production company that specializes in games and television production. In this role, Dan spearheads the development of innovative projects ranging from fully immersive theme park rides and spectacles to cutting-edge television programs that combine world-class animation, motion tracking, and real-time game engine pipeline. Dark Slope develops original intellectual properties as well as service production, and recent partners include NBC Peacock, Nickelodeon, Wildbrain, Insight Productions, AT&T, TV Ontario, E1's Secret Location, Zero Latency, Hologate, and Magic Leap. Prior to his current role, Dan was the head of multi-platform for the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, where he was named the top digital innovator by The Australian for his role in commissioning the country's most popular video streaming service, iView. iView now accounts for over 900 million streams a year in Australia. Previous to ABC, Dan was the former Vice President Interactive of Decode Entertainment, now Wildbrain. In this role, he built an award-winning international studio producing games and immersive experiences for a global audience. Dan is a seasoned presenter, having spoken at the Banff World Media Festival in Canada, MIPCOM in France, X-Media Labs in Singapore, X-Media Labs Melbourne, X-Media Labs in Sydney, and Game Developers Conference in San Francisco and San Diego, Kidscreen New York, and Asia Animation Summit in Kuala Lumpur, Kidscreen Miami, as well as the TAAFI Animation Arts Festival International Toronto, this one right here. Dan is a co-founder of the production company Chocolate Liberation Front and a major shareholder of education and simulation company Lumetto. All right, and next up we have Joe Raasch. For over 20 years, Joe has been the coordinator of Seneca College's visual effects program and a visual effects artist. He has made training for Foundry, organized several Nuke user group meetings, served on the board for TAAFI and the Toronto chapter of the Visual Effects Society, and most recently completed the Unreal Fellowship for Virtual Production. All right, and our next panelist is S. S has a Bachelor of Engineering from McMaster University and is the CEO of XR Studios. He also has a background in business strategy, marketing, and engineering. He has a track record of innovative and community-focused engagement, which is proven by his past entrepreneurial successes and achievement in the London Inc. Top 20 Under 40 Award in 2020. XR Studios is a digital creative tech company whose mission is to develop extended reality, XR, technology that allows destinations all over the world to bring engaging cultural content to users on location. They deepen the experience of exploring the world by providing arts, history, and cultural experiences to people who travel globally or locally. They work with local experts to create the most culturally authentic content they can while providing entertaining storytelling to the world. And as for myself, I'm Grayden Laing, and Adriana already introduced me. So, next up, we're going to get a little bit more of an in-depth look at what these panelists have to talk about. First, we'd like to start with Dan. Dan, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do based on the showreel that we just saw?
Thanks, Grayden, and hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out Saturday morning, or at least rolling out of bed and into your pajamas and onto Zoom, but it's really great that you showed up. Yeah, as mentioned, Dark Slope, we started out little over 3.5 years ago, and we were producing, at the time, we'd optioned a graphic novel from Nathan Jervicius called Scary Girl, and developed it into this super nerdy, free roam, virtual reality warehouse-based activity, where you basically threw on backpack computers, VR headsets, you had a motion tracking capabilities and haptic weapon and vest, and basically this warehouse experience has been distributed to 40 locations around the world through zero latency. That allowed us to actually familiarize ourselves with creating sort of a virtual production pipeline, and we've since adapted that to create broadcast quality television series, as well as continuing to produce these sort of location-based entertainment experiences, and then most recently moving to at-home experiences, predominantly VR multiplayer at-home activities.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Okay, next up we have S. Can you show us a little bit more about XR Studios?
Thanks so much for the introduction, Grayden. So XR Studios, we work with destinations all over the world to kind of tell these beautiful cultural stories in an authentic way. And today, what I'd like to do is I'd like to tell a little bit about our origin story of how we sort of built this business model and how we're able to do these impactful things in a profitable way. In the beginnings of our company, we started by installing VR hardware in long-term care homes. We got to bring bright smiles to people's faces. We got to give people who hadn't left those four walls the opportunity to fly back to their childhood homes and Google Earth or go scuba diving for the first time. All of that was extremely exciting for us, and we knew that there was a huge opportunity to use this technology to improve people's quality of life. So we decided we needed to build something of our own. And so we embarked upon our journey of creating our virtual reality experience, which helped elders regain their sense of balance and coordination and reduce the likelihood of falls. Falls are like the largest cause of death and injury during people's stay at long-term care homes. We launched our beta, and it was very exciting. That's some imagery from that. And then you can imagine something happened, something big that impacted all of us, which was the pandemic. And as a result, the people that, loved working with us were forced to prioritize the health of their residents over their entertainment and enjoyment. And that really hurt us. But I got to toot our own horn a little bit here. Most companies in that scenario would have just stopped. They would have given up. They would have moved on. But we didn't. We did the unthinkable. We went back to a pipe dream that we had of a bunch of concepts that we put together over the years and built our flagship product, Engage Art, which is the app that allows you to explore the world. Here are some. Today we kind of work with tourism organizations, museums, art galleries, theme parks, basically any place that has a story to tell in a cultural and authentic way. And we've been able to work with cities like Ottawa to kind of create these amazing experiences. So in Ottawa, we created 5 mural augmentations where you could kind of go through and see these murals and see them come to life. In addition to that, we also gave them a full digital experience by doing a projection mapped experience in that area, which drew lots of attention and also just looked epically cool. Here are some of the experiences you could kind of have during at that place. There was a little platformer with its tiger where you can help it get across these obstacles. This mural we brought to life, there were some tentacles and those bubbles, when you tap them, they make music. So you were able to make music there. You could also do a gardening experience where you can make a tree pop out of the sidewalk, or do this little slingshot experience where you pop balloons. And we also did a beautiful poem that we augmented with augmented reality. This project was one of our favorite things to work on, and it was kind of surreal to see all of this sort of come together. But extended reality isn't just augmented reality. We also do physical installations. We created this beautifully decorated piano with LEDs on it and an AR experience that worked with it that allowed users to understand how AR and physical things can interact. So you could do something on the piano and the piano would interact with the AR. You could do something in the AR and the AR would interact with the piano. We have lots more like that coming up. I'd be amiss if I didn't talk about some of the stuff that we did at home. So both in London and St. Thomas, we have experiences all over the place. In St. Thomas, you can have Ellie the elephant kind of guide you through the area. And in London, you can do this photography experience where you take pictures of birds. So my contact info is on screen now. If you want to collaborate, if you're interested in being involved in any of our projects, we're very collaborative, and we just want to work with people who are extremely creative and talented minds. So don't hesitate to send me an email, shoot me a DM, whatever the kids are doing these days. And I hope you enjoyed my little story, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, S. That was really cool. And of course, the shout out to St. Thomas, I really appreciate. That's where I'm from. So like Ellie the Elephant is currently wandering our streets in AR, and anybody can experience that, which is really awesome. And then again, you've got Ottawa, where you just did the projection mapping, which is absolutely fantastic. All right, so our next speaker is Joe Raasch.
Hey.
And you've created some really awesome things. So I'm going to pull them up on the screen. But if you want to start talking a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm a visual effects artist and a teacher. But this summer I had the opportunity to take the Unreal Fellowship. And this was really the first time that I was able to get my kind of feet wet with real-time kind of virtual production. So we had to make a movie. So that's part of like the fellowship. And so this was me trying Faceware Studio for the first time. And that's me, I was acting out the lines, and then I brought it into a metahuman. So the first time I was using metahumans inside of Unreal Engine, and that's what the final shot looked like. And, I was just trying to do all sorts of things. So this is, can you just pause it here just for a second? So I wanted to use these characters for the short film, but these characters, they didn't really have the proper blend shapes for facial animation. And so I ended up using this plugin from Blender. So I've never used Blender before, but there's this awesome plugin called Face It, which allows you to kind of make the blend shapes so quickly and easily. So this is a test of making the blend shapes, and that would have taken me, days, weeks to do, but we only had 5 weeks in total. So I was able to do this in like a day, like make all the 52 blend shapes that are required for the iOS facial capture. And then you can keep playing. And so that was a test of it. And then here is just inside that tool, literally you can make these blend shapes in minutes. And it just goes through and it just shows all the different blend shapes that you can make there. And I was blown away by that. Because I had never used Blender before, this was like a brand new plugin that I had never heard of before. I was just kind of desperate trying to get the blend shapes working for these people. And then I did the groom for this bear character in Houdini. And again, I'm blown away by Unreal and being able to simulate all that hair. Like I'm used to simulating, can you just pause it for a minute? I'm used to simulating stuff in Houdini where it takes forever. And then just to bring it into Unreal, and it was like simulating in real time. Like I couldn't believe it. So then I wanted one of the characters in my film to have to use like a metahuman face and maybe put it onto a different body. So that's what this is. And then I looked at the quality and I was like, wow, this is way better than the blend shapes I was making. It blew me away. So you can keep playing. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to use the metahumans as much as I can in my short film. And I was, like you can sort of adapt them. You can sort of change them around a little bit. And again, this is all just with an iOS facial capture. So I was really happy with the expression. And so with this character, this is just the hero. I just changed the hero. I was going to make the blend shapes myself with that plugin. I kept it for the bear character, but for the humans, this was the test I did for that. And, I was really happy. I was just happy with how it was starting to turn out. And then here's all 3 of the characters. So, and they're all doing the same facial expression. The bear was the one using that plugin. The other ones, and this is all done with Faceware Studio. And so that was a lot of the stuff I did for my short film. And, when I was done with my short film, just now I'm still sort of playing around with Unreal. And I really like Houdini. And so this is a test of just importing Houdini particles into Unreal. And again, I'm kind of blown away with how performant it is. It's so fast. It's so much fun. And now this, so when I was making my short film, what you may notice, sorry, can you just pause at this one just for a second? What you may notice with metahumans, if people are editing them or playing them around, the metahuman face only kind of goes up to about here on your chest. And so what you'll notice is a lot of times online, people will put a metahuman head on like a different body, but they'll have to wear like an outfit that kind of goes up to their neck, you know, like they don't want to kind of show the bottom of the neck. But there's another technology, it's called Mesh Morpher. It's a plugin for Unreal that's awesome, that allows you to kind of alter or really change the metahuman head a lot. So with this, what I was doing here was I took the metahuman rig, and the rig on the metahumans is incredible. There's like 5 different skeletons that drive the motion, and you get really, really nice, like the nicest deformations that I've ever seen. And again, it's all in real time, so it's super impressive. And with this character, what I did was I was able to take the metahuman rig, put it onto just a different mesh, and then alter the metahuman's face so that the neck kind of extended. And the other thing too is that metahumans, they sort of, they have regular proportions. So I wanted this to look like a superhero, but superheroes have like, you know, big thick necks. So I had to like alter and then just warp the neck so that it would fit onto the body and look appropriate. So you can play this now. So that's what these are, just a bunch of tests. Just taking that and applying it, taking, you know, the metahuman rig, applying it to an arbitrary mesh, all the controls come across, and then altering the face a little bit. Just mostly just for this one, I was just really thickening the neck. But then the next clip, well, yeah, sorry, there's a few more tests just of the same thing, just different angles. It's so much fun to light in Unreal with it. I'm so used to, you know, hitting render and then waiting 15 minutes. Okay, so this one here, this is me really trying to push how far can I change the default metahuman. And for those that aren't, like, who don't know this, like metahumans are kind of like the downloadable kind of free characters that you can use inside of Unreal. So the default metahuman, like one of the default metahuman's faces is on the right, and on the left is me kind of trying to alter that metahuman face to make it look a little bit more cartoony, but then still keep all the controls and the rigs and everything across from there. So, so you can go back to, So this is just a test, just sort of doing, just, you know, taking the speech from one and then applying it over to the other. And you can go into Maya, you can sort of alter it, but this is using a plugin for Unreal called Mesh Morpher, which was fantastic. And once this is done, you can skip to the next video. It's just them just talking, not too exciting. And then in this next video coming up, this is, again, just taking that head and just altering it more to try to make it look more like superhero-y. But this is like a metahuman face with all the really nice deformations. I was really happy with the amount of deformations that I had, or like, you know, the quality of them. And again, just with iPhone capture, no cleanup on the expressions. So again, just happy with how this was able to turn out. And then just applying it with some fun kung fu stuff. Oh, and then this is using Houdini Rag Dolls. So just being able to take the rag dolls in Houdini, like Houdini 19 just came out, and it has like a whole new kind of ragdoll setting that you can sort of play around with. And I know this stuff isn't Unreal, but it's nice having the control that Houdini can afford you. So this is just me playing around, putting some ragdoll settings onto the same metahuman with all like the face deformation and everything. So yeah, so that's a lot of just like kind of like my tests and experiments and things like that that I've been doing. So yeah.
Awesome. That's super exciting. Sorry about some of the playback there. I was kind of like
all good.
Running with the controls there. All right. And next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about some colorization. So one of the things I've done in my studio is worked on a project where we took black and white footage and we colorized it using consumer-based tools, so like Photoshop as well as some cloud computing from Google. And so what we did is we built like templates here, And then we would use AI that was currently being developed last year. So there's a program called Deoldify, and you can actually go into Deoldify and you can connect in with some of the Google like cloud computing stuff, and you can get the AI to actually like colorize your footage. And as we were working on the show, which is War Story, Fight to the Finish for the History Channel, this technology was getting better and better. So we started out with Photoshop with a very basic kind of look, and then what we did is we were able to take what we were working on in Photoshop and then apply it to the AI footage. And the AI footage would sometimes have like color stutters. So if you've ever worked with any colorization stuff, you realize that like, okay, it doesn't colorize perfectly. And when you go to video, it'll flicker back and forth. And as a result, you want to kind of stabilize those colors. And we were able to do that in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play this clip and kind of like talk through it as I'm explaining what's going on here. So my studios, Laing Studios, I also run Established Media, and this is a test that we did to pitch the project. So we actually took that black and white footage and we did an overlay in Photoshop, and then this is a moving clip. And the thing is, if you had a more static shot, it was easier to do. This is very complicated. We took this into After Effects and we blended all the edges. So what you'll find out is that in this stuff, the blurred edges really give you that kind of artistic, real feeling. And so it was a trial between figuring out like what would work for the production in terms of our schedule and budget. So like all the planes here are painted individually, and then I did a gradient fill from the bottom to the top with mask out for the clouds in Photoshop and a tracking mat. That was probably the longest clip I did. This is an AI one, so I'm just going to stop here because these are just fantastic. So AI basically did all of this, and then what we did is we would paint in mats in Photoshop and then do little traveling ones to keep all the boats the same color. So you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see, but there's like purple in here on this one, and then there's like these grays need to be standardized. So what we do is do like a traveling mat in Photoshop, because you can actually turn it into a video frame, and then you basically travel that. And but for the faces, where you have a more organic shape like this here, you have to actually paint around frame by frame. So I had about 10 artists that were working for me, and I would send out a template with the color palette, and then they would go in frame by frame and do those things to really punch it up and give you that realistic look that we were looking for. Same as this, you can see the AI, it kind of brings in some purple, and so we paint over top of that to give a more standardized color, but it's very realistic and it's very cool, and it's something that's just being available now to everybody, whereas previously this colorization stuff was only available to like very large and complicated studios. This took a lot of time. The circles morphing and transforming and keeping that static, that was the most difficult part, but all these clips are super short. And one of the things we had to work with the studio was picking out which clips we could actually do and which clips were too complicated for the time and the budget we had. This one I love because it's just a gradient. So artistically, we would look at all the footage and I would be able to tell the directors and producers like, okay, we can use these clips, we can't use these clips, and then we'll pick our hero shots. So this kind of a shot here in a misty morning is just like a brown gradient and a blue from the top. And then this one was painted on by one of the artists that was working for me. She was absolutely fantastic. I love that shot. It's one of my favorites. This medic one also, absolutely incredible. This is in Italy with the tanks. So you pick and choose your battles on what clips to put your energy and your time into. But as you can see, like these shots here are AI then filtered through Photoshop. This one was absolutely like just insane to work on because there's so many moving parts and AI was all over the place. But this was a shot they really wanted in the film, so we took a lot of time to go through and colorize every single frame on that piece. So it's a pretty fantastic process. And then we have footage like this, which is from the NFB, and the NFB shot the best footage during World War II. So colorizing that was an absolute breeze because technologically, what you find out is in the colorization program, you need to get rid of all of the flickering and you need to get rid of all the noise. Otherwise, it won't work properly. It creates weird color stuff. That was a shot from Korea that got in the film that we didn't end up using because the researcher was like, no, that's from Korea. You can't use that in a Second World War film. So that one actually, you're seeing that. No one else has ever seen that one. These kind of shots, I love. Atmospheric, like beautiful. And that's the kind of stuff you can do in Photoshop. And as far as I'm aware, you can't do in any other program to get the same effect. But the AI and how it's evolving really helped us to be able to get where we needed to go and improved during the time we were actually producing it, which was absolutely fantastic. So that's a little bit about some of the stuff we've done in terms of animation and how you can kind of work in a smaller studio, take the new tools that are evolving, and produce something for broadcast television that's as good or better than what's being currently produced. All right, and now we're going to talk a little bit with everybody about what you guys are doing. So one of the things we want to talk about is the fact that all three of you are using game engines to do your work. So Dan, I want to start off with you. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're using game engines to kind of explore and expand the bounds of technology and animation right now?
Sure, absolutely. So again, we have two main lines. We have our game side of the business, and then we've got the television production side. Both of them are using a component of virtual production. So on the TV side, much of our animation is a combination of motion tracking. So you saw Joe's piece, which is using Facer. We use that for facial tracking. And then we use both Extends and OptiTrack to track the rest of the body. We have a fairly large stage. And so much of our animation for these shows, we're literally hiring a choreographer. The animation director is almost like a live action director because they're directing performance artists that are dancers, and there's as I said, like a choreographer that's part of the workflow. And then we run all of the data from the characters through the Unreal Engine, and that's allowing obviously for the real-time rendering, and we do a lot of the effects in Engine as well. In terms of roles, it creates a whole series of animation cleanup roles, which are all predominantly being done in Canada. And then, of course, there's still a hybrid effect where we've brought in like quadruped and other animated characters that are still done traditionally. On the game side, sort of similar, we're obviously the output's quite different, whether it's a simulation ride where you've got limitations because, you have a different frame rate, and you're basically focused on how you can efficiently, create an atmosphere with maybe a lower resolution. Still using the Unreal Engine for all of that production as well. And again, motion capture is utilized in some of the production of the characters for that as well. And then I guess the last area, which isn't really so much necessarily animation based, but it is part of our area of interest because we sort of see a future of full immersion. We're kind of seeing that 15, 20 years down where we are in Ready Player One, where that is our audience, and there's a replacement of the internet with the overutilized term metaverse. But to that extent, we've put a lot of investment into haptics. So effectively, vests, gloves, handheld devices where you can feel something, fans, heat, and transforming the experience so that you're hitting another part of this sensory input. So we're actively looking for new creators that are thinking of, well, what is a new form of entertainment beyond sort of flat screen? What can it be? And we're investing in new people with these great ideas because we certainly want to foster that and be a part of this wave of new forms of entertainment.
Fantastic. So what you're saying is there are people in the audience right now, and this is something they're interested in. They should be in touch with you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, we've been growing fairly rapidly. It's fair to say that at the start of the pandemic, when our business was primarily focused on location-based entertainment, I couldn't see a future for the company. I basically watched, what looked like was going to be this destruction. We pivoted pretty quickly, and with the at home and with the television production side, and we've grown exponentially in the last year and a half. And in particular, we're looking for a lot of underrepresented groups. We're looking for a lot of women on the game side in particular. We're looking for BIPOC practitioners on all levels, and we're offering sort of mentorship for people that like maybe coming straight out of school and have an ambition to be a director. They may not be that familiar with the Unreal Engine. We want to, have them be part of the pipeline, which we're also, by the way, sort of making up as we go along as well. So,
absolutely. So that kind of tees into talking a little bit to Joe, because Joe, you're actually training people to do this, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we're trying to we're expanding the program out. We're going to try to incorporate more real-time technologies, get Unreal into the curriculum, get the students familiar with it. So that's kind of the first step, and then we kind of see where things go from there, how much virtual production gets used, and like we have our eye on all that. For the school, though, we have to kind of be careful like where we spend our money. So we're hoping that the prices come down for this technology, and then we're also just kind of seeing what becomes the standard, and then we try to move into that as quick as we can.
Very good. And in terms of your school, Joe, like, how are you using these game engines?
So really, right now, it's very early days. Like, if because we're geared to, like, my program, we're geared towards visual effects. So it could be like if you are a Houdini artist and you're making some simulations, instead of rendering it in Redshift or rendering it in Arnold, maybe you render it in Unreal. For us, the missing link still for our visual effects is just getting a shadow catcher. That's really all that these programs need. Something that would catch the shadows and then apply it to the live action footage. Right now, I've seen tests that people have done. I've seen hard shadows, but not like the nice soft, shadows that you would want. So that's really the missing link for me. And to be honest, I have no idea if Unity can do that or not, because I'm mostly just familiar with Unreal. I've seen tests in Unreal, and not there yet. Not there yet. It's I've seen some hard shadows, but not the nice production level that we would want. So at this point, it's more like if students are rendering out tests, if they're rendering out some of their projects, we could use Unreal for that. But if we're merging it with live action, there's still a bit of a gap there.
Absolutely. I think soft shadows are kind of what we in the artistic world always struggle with. And that's why I did everything in Photoshop as opposed to After Effects, because it was easy for me to create those soft shadows while colorizing old World War II footage. And it's like nothing else would give me artistically what I wanted. So we did it frame by frame, which is insane. But like the results are so good. And if you could see it on the big screen in like 4K, you'd just be like, whoa. Crazy. But we're going to turn it over to S now. S, how are you using game engines in your work?
Yeah, I'll kind of take a specific subset of how we use Unity, because I think it's going to be most interesting to the audience. One of the things about XR is that, and when I say XR, I mean XR, the technology, is that people sometimes don't realize how much the real world plays into what you have to do to make something work really well. And so one of the things that we do in our work is we'll coordinate with our clients to get photogrammetry or LiDAR scans of the places that we're going to be placing our content. And that allows us to kind of create this interplay between that environment that isn't necessarily as natural unless you kind of take that step. You make sure that, there's a stop sign here, right? And you can either see the stop sign as a constraint that you stay away from, or as an object that you can kind of interestingly do some interplay from an animation perspective, from a gaming perspective. And I think that's one of the most interesting ways that we use the Unity game engine.
Very cool. Now, another question for you, S, just to follow up on some of your stuff, is like you're working business to business or business to organization, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
How would you recommend that people do that? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I think this is like deeply from a business perspective. So like the tech side just goes out of the window. Really, what you need to do is be very clear on your vision of your company, and you have to think about, well, what problem do I solve? And for businesses, if you can't tie that problem to a line item on their bottom line of their budget, then you're in trouble, because businesses, they operate just like we do as studios, right? At the end of the day, we need to pay our employees. We need to make sure that things are working well. So my recommendation is to look at, do like a gap analysis, right? So you think about what tasks that organization that you're trying to work with has to accomplish, what are the gaps, and then what are the opportunities, and then you can build a product that uses your skill set that plugs a hole that wasn't available with other technologies.
Absolutely. I can definitely speak to that in terms of working in broadcast television, where you have a certain budget and you can pick your hero shots. So when we were working on our project, we had the ones that had a lot of people in it, a lot of moving parts. We're like, these are the ones we want. And then the other ones, they're shadowy, and then you have like a sky in the background that you can quickly do. So you pick your hero shots throughout because everyone's got a budget and you want to do the best you can within that. And I want to follow up with Dan as well. Dan, you're doing basically the same thing. Like, you're bringing new products to market and you're working as a business. How do you do that? And, in the new technology market, how do you do it on a budget where you can make things affordable?
I mean, that's an excellent question. I would say, for people that are wondering whether they should get into, learning a little bit of Unity or Unreal, the answer is hard yes. It is very, very hard to find technical artists and developers right now. We actually comb the world, and the salaries for people that are literally just coming straight out of school are very high. So I would seriously, it reminds me of when Flash started to replace traditional 2D animation. It feels like Unreal and Unity are basically, making their way out of games into VFX, into primetime TV. It's literally everything, and the way in which they're playing with, Maya and Houdini to try and bring out the best of those programs as well. I would place my bet with them. So now, to answer your question, when you're working with Unreal on a virtual production, you can hit all levels. People are obviously doing things like The Mandalorian. Pixelmondo is doing some incredible stuff, which is at the very high end of town. And then you can do low-cost animation where you're turning around things really quickly because you're rendering in real time or near real time. You can do a lot of the effects in Engine. So you can hit both of those areas, but you also have to be very careful as well. We found that at the moment, we aren't using a full Unreal production pipeline all the way through. You're having to use all of these other pieces. You have to find out what's right for your project. And if you do that correctly, then you're producing things a lot faster. You're getting some nice, smooth movements with the motion capture that are very hard to replicate if you're traditionally animating them. If you do it wrong, it's very expensive. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, 100%. All right, we're going to open it up to questions from the audience now. We have several questions. We're going to see if we can get through them in the time that we've got. The number one most upvoted question so far is, what has been the most rewarding part of your job so far? And I'm going to throw that to Joe.
My job, rewarding? The best thing is teaching the students. That's the most, absolutely the most rewarding thing, is seeing stuff that I showed them, and then they turn it around and they make something that I wouldn't have imagined. So for sure, that's the absolutely most rewarding part. Or getting an email that they've landed a job, that they were able to get employment because of the course. That's a huge motivating factor for me.
And us?
Yeah, I think for me, it's the way that we get to tell these stories. So when we think about what does it mean to tell Indigenous stories that were perhaps kept close to the chest for a long time in a very respectful and authentic way, reaching out to experts who actually know those stories much better than any of us could, and giving them the recognition that they deserve for those stories and the work that they do. That's just, you can't put a price on that. To be able to connect with people like on those Indigenous stories, or we recently did a project with Banting House, which is a museum that showcases the work of Sir Frederick Banting, who is the co-inventor of insulin. So there were countless people that would have died if this invention didn't occur, didn't happen, and being able to kind of bring that to the world and get people to understand the importance of it, and have a better, deeper understanding of what people with diabetes go through on a day-to-day basis. I just love being able to kind of create that cultural connection between two individuals who may not have understood each other's stories.
Absolutely. And Dan?
I feel that it's basically creating activities and experiences or spectacles for audiences that they've literally never had such a visceral experience. That to me is so exciting, where it makes like oldies like me feel like a child when that is happening, exploring and experiencing something like never before.
Totally. And I feel like it's been about 20, 25 years. Like 25 years is where we saw these things happening, and we thought it was going to happen in like 5 years. And we all saw the programs, we watched the things. We're like, oh, this is going to be incredible. And the technology and the hardware just wasn't able to support it. And like now, 25 years later, we're finally getting these things, like these augmented reality things. And we're just like, oh, okay, this is what I wanted when I was like 10. And my uncle bought me this software program in 3D, and I was like building these worlds that like nobody else could see. And I couldn't put anywhere because I was on like rural dial-up internet. But it's so exciting to see it come to fruition now. So the next question is, what do you see as the next big thing, such as VR and augmented reality? So Joe, we're going to start with you, and then we'll go around in the same pattern.
The next big thing, I mean, for me right now, my main focus is on machine learning and real time. I don't know what comes after that, but it's like, the crazy thing is how fast things can change. Like just the other day, Unity bought Weta's VFX tech department, and I am so curious to see what do they do with that. Yeah. Do they kind of like a lot? The trend is that they buy, like these companies buy and then release it for free, which I would love. Like that would be awesome. And you see like these tools being really democratized and allowing anyone, like those metahumans, they're so nice and they're so high end, and you can make them in like 15 minutes, and it's hard to make a bad one. Like it's hard to make an ugly character. Like you would have to really try to kind of break the physicality of it. So for me, it's just the democratization of the tools, virtual or real time, and machine learning. Those are the big things that I'm looking at right now.
Absolutely. That's something I want to talk about a little bit as well, as a democratization, because it really, what this technology allows you to do is come from anywhere and succeed. As if you've got the time to like read all of this stuff and learn how to do it, you can succeed and you can be successful. And not only that, you've got companies like Dan who will like train you up once you get there to learn how to do it and then be successful. So there's all these opportunities in the world that everyone can take advantage of, which I find absolutely fantastic. It's kind of like it's a breaking down of the barriers. And S, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think I think about a much longer time frame in a general sense from my roles perspective, and I'm really interested because we've sort of seen this shift from this technology is for gaming and gaming only to, oh wait, there's industry applications. Oh wait, there's social applications and there's community applications. And the way that we kind of have, we have NFTs that are right around the corner. We're starting to see a lot of traction in that realm, and we're going to start to see like you go into a game or social experience that's either in VR or AR, and you start to care a lot about how you represent yourself, because the more and more we move forward, we may even see a point where we're spending more time in the metaverse than we are in our real lives. There's actually a funny like imagery that comes into my head of like a future where we're so much into the metaverse that like we're wearing AR headsets, and really like everyone's wearing like these white and black QR code pattern t-shirts, just because we don't care what it looks like in real life. We just like care what it looks like when people put their headset on, and we've got like crazy VFX coming off of ourselves. So I think a lot of that is coming like super long term. I don't think that the QR code reference is just a joke, but there will be sort of a point where we start to see our identities in the digital world to be far more important than our identities in the real world. And I mean, maybe that'll happen. Maybe there will be a balance. I hope for a balance because selfishly, I'm in augmented reality. That means that part of it is being in the real world as well.
Absolutely, and we've got things like Second Life that have been going on for a while now, and like that's kind of transitioning into like the real world, and potentially could go into an augmented reality world as well, which would be nuts and crazy, but cool. I remember like playing around with that. I don't know, it's like 15 years ago in Guelph, and just being like, "What is happening?" So to see those kind of elements come into the real world, and they had stores back then. I don't think many of them did that well, but you could like buy things virtually, and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool," and then it kind of like died. But now, like, you could get into that with augmented reality, where you could have like a virtual pop-up shop, where you could like be selling things and like interacting with people, and I could be here and then have like a virtual like augmented reality pop-up shop in like Kuala Lumpur or somewhere else and interact with people, which is just absolutely fascinating. All right, Dan, what do you see as the next big thing?
I think in the short term, actually, a lot of the work that S's company is doing is probably the most interesting. I think that the secret sauce that you guys have been talking about is the multiplayer component, the ability that we can be in this together. And, you know, I think that we're about due a really good AR headset. Like, we're owed that. Magically promised it. We're not there, but it's surely not that far away. And, you know, I think that the education and the simulation side is going to take off first. That ability to, you know, I mean, we have a sister company, Lumetto, that focuses on things like police de-escalation and, you know, remote intubation, and that ability to have multiple people that are able to learn something where things are overlaid in a spatialized way is, I think it's fascinating, and that to me will hit you know, fast, and some of the impressive work that S is already doing and demonstrating the kinds of things that you can see in the real world. That's just like, it's trippy and it's cool, and I think people are going to latch onto it. Industry.
Absolutely. And our next question is, what kind of impact do you think this sort of AR tech will have in tourism and post-pandemic? And I'm going to throw this to S. But first, like we were mentioning, he's actually done some really cool stuff in St. Thomas with Ellie the elephant that like can tour people around to different locations. And one of my favorites is at the Cenotaph in St. Thomas. They actually worked with the History Museum, and there are pictures up in augmented reality of different people, and you can hear their stories from the community in augmented reality, which it's absolutely fascinating. It really ties in history to place and location in a way that other things don't. So, As, can you talk a little bit about the kind of impact you see this having on tourism for places like Ontario?
Whew, that is a big question. Yeah, so there's a lot that's gonna be changing, and I think that like the people who jump on board with this technology first are going to have a huge advantage in the future, because, you know, if the example I like to give is, you know, you go to a particular tourism location, in particular, like historical locations are like big culprits of this, right? You go there and there's this like bronze, brown, ugly looking plaque that tells a story,
yes.
Right? And I've seen like, you know, you can probably put a camera on that and there's maybe one person per day that stops and actually reads it. So contrast that to like going to a place and whether that's through your phone or through an AR headset of the future, contact lenses, Neuralink, whatever we end up in the future, and being able to just like walk there, see what it looks like past, present, and future, even potentially in terms of what that municipality envisions for their future of their city, and being able to get all of that entire historical context, including cultural authenticity and all of the different angles, because in terms of like how we view our culture, we sort of have this tipping point where we're starting to realize that, you know, the revisionist history isn't going to work out so well, and we want to be more truthful and more authentic. all of those stories can be told in a medium that's going to really enrapture the audience. And that's what's really going to make people want to go, right? Like we've seen with social media, like the content that resonates the most isn't like the highly polished corporate video. It's the video of the person bringing something to their face and saying a heartfelt story, right? And to be able to do those things in augmented reality, including like what Dan said, some of those multiplayer components that allow you to not only interact with that environment, but interact with the people around you, is just going to provide an experience that's completely unimaginable today.
Absolutely. And we've got some questions about your contact information because people want to know like how to get in touch with you. So go to the TAAFI website. Everyone's information is up there. You can click on the links and you can find out how to contact all of these fine individuals. Another question about education is coming in, and people want to know, how to learn about this stuff, what schools to go to. So Joe, I'm going to throw this to you. If people want to learn this, they want to get, a college or university level education in this stuff, where do you recommend going?
I mean, I'm very biased because I work at
Really?
Seneca College. I think honestly, what I would recommend to students is research the programs that you're interested in. Look up the topics. You'll find there are many programs that are out there in Ontario that that teach this sort of thing, and then just look at the graduates' work, and don't be afraid to reach out to the program coordinators and really do your homework so that you feel confident about the program that you decide to ultimately go into. So, just do a little bit of homework, search around, but I mean, you'll find the previous students, their demo reels. It's not hard to find their presence online. And I would say just research that thoroughly and make an informed decision on where you want to go.
Now, Dan, what about schools that you're familiar with that are teaching what you want students to know?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think the work that Joe's doing is super impressive as well.
Yeah.
I think that it's all the software and hardware development is happening so fast that in many cases, even within the colleges and universities, like even the professors and teaching staff, instructors are learning in real time as well. So that can be a good environment, but you're literally maybe at a similar level in some cases, depending on how innovative you're going. Epic itself has got Epic University, and there's courses that you can do. A lot of things that you can do online are quite amazing. And at this point, we of course prefer people that have got some formalized training, but if someone comes in and they're just absolutely brilliant and they've learned it all online, we're not going to be hung up on whether they have that post-secondary education if they've got a portfolio of incredible stuff. Obviously, on the coding side, you can't look past Waterloo. U of T and Waterloo are really on the front line, but for artists, Sheridan, Seneca, always really, really fantastic, world's best in some respects. So
I know we're very lucky in Ontario to have such amazing schools where you can learn this stuff. So if you're growing up here, you can, stay local if that's what you want to do and get a world-class education. All right, we're coming up to the end of our program, but I think we've got time for like one more question in here. And that might be pushing it. We've got a minute and a half. Oof. So what would you say your favorite program? You would pick one of these engines to work in. What would be your favorite one? And then we'll wrap it up. We'll start with you, Dan.
I would say right now it is the Unreal Engine. One thing I was going to mention, Grayden, too, is that we're actually looking for young creators to help with this new form of television content we're calling hyper reality TV, which is basically using game engine tech and trying to, inject that into reality programs. And there's a fellowship you might want to Google to find out about that because we're looking for new ideas. But Unreal for the moment is definitely our favorite. It's basically we've built our studio around it.
Perfect. And Joe?
Oh, I love Houdini. I could use Houdini all day. And there's a rep that it's difficult to learn, that it's hard to learn. It can be, but honestly, I find it the most forgiving program out of all of them. It just works the way that I kind of think.
Perfect, Ines.
Yeah, I'm not going to give a concrete answer here. We used Unreal for the VR stuff that we did before, and then we switched to Unity because we found Unity was a lot easier to work with when doing AR projects. So to me, it really depends what you're trying to accomplish, what engine is going to be the best for you.
Very good. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thanks to our amazing panelists. And I hope you all have an incredible time for the remainder of the conference. And don't forget that all panels will be available for 3 months right here on this Crowdcast server if you signed up for your ticket. And catch you on the flip side.